Hey VC, it's Jonathan, your cheap and cheerful record collector. So 53 years ago today, August 1st, 1969, me and a bunch of our friends went to the Atlantic City Pop Festival. We were living in Athens, Ohio, which is where the Ohio University is. It's southeastern Ohio. We'd all dropped out of school. We were living in this big old rambling house we bought, we rented. We're not going to call it a commune, but we all were living together in this big old house. And everybody was reading Thomas Wolfe's Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test at the time. And one day, one of the guys who was living there came back and he says, "I found us a bus." And we said, what? So we went out, he found the outside town, there was a used car lot, and they had this International Harvester. I have no idea what year it was, but it was a church bus painted blue and white. And I think it was $325 or $350. We somehow scraped that money together and bought the bus. We left it blue and white on the outside because we were so paranoid about being stopped by cops all the time in Ohio. In 1969, they were not very friendly towards us, so we tried to keep a low-key view of everything, keep ourselves out of the way. Inside, we painted the bus all totally psychedelic. Ripped out about half the seats, put a big bed in with curtains all the way around, and a couple of days before August 1st, we drove to Atlantic City. We got to the festival that Friday morning. We didn't have tickets, but we found a place sort of on the side where there was no security, and we scrambled over the fence to get in. We got in, and once you were in back then, there was no wristbands or no stamps on the hand or anything. There was no seats. It was all just a big open field. It was a racetrack, so a big open field and a racetrack. Some seats around the end of the grandstands. But everybody was wandering around. No one was sitting. Everybody stood up for the whole time. And the first day, show kicked off with a very big band. Then they had a #1 hit. And it was Iron Butterfly, Inagana Navita. So they played that and a bunch of other songs. And that's how the festival got kicked off, with Iron Butterfly, Inagana Navita. Second band, again, we had no idea how iconic all these bands would turn out to be, but the second band was Procol Harum, Whiter Shade of Pale, etc., etc. This actually is an original mono, which is really hard to find, and you always see the repress for stereo or electronically changed for stereo. Find it. It's not in really great shape, but still really hard to find an original mono in on the Durham label. It's all about the records. There you go. On the Durham label, Procol Harum. They were the second band. Next band I don't have a record for. It was Booker T and the MGs. I have them obviously back up with Otis Redding, etc., etc., but I don't have a Booker T and the MG albums to show. But they were the third act, Booker T and the MGs. Next came up was an iconic, amazing performer, Joni Mitchell. The only problem was it was the middle of the day and people were wandering around and no one really was paying attention. And after, I think, the second song, she started to cry and walked off stage and said, "No one's listening to me, no one plays on here," and she cried and walked off stage. So we got maybe 2 songs out of Joni. They had a MC then, guy named Biff Rose. You might have seen his album around, Biff Rose, A Rose and a Thorn in Mrs. Rose's Side. We sort of liked him. He's sort of folky, and he sort of kept everything going all along for the 3 days. He picked up his guitar after Joni left and played a set. It was sort of fun. After Joni left, the next band sort of got themselves ready. Out came Chicago, CTA, Chicago Transit Authority. Gave a great show. Really enjoyed them. Never a big fan, but they really put it on that day. That's the album, their first album, Chicago Transit Authority. After Chicago, the MC, Biff Rose, says, "Here's a new band out from California, the Santana Blues Band." I'd never heard of them, obviously. Santana came out and Carlos immediately corrected him and said, "We're not a blues band." And they just tore the place up. We had never heard them, never even heard of them. This album wasn't even out yet then, I don't think. And they just blew everybody away. It was fantastic. So that was one of the bands I remember most from that time there, Santana. And closing out the first day was the great Johnny Winter. Also gave a great performance. Johnny Winter. So that was the end of the first day. So they cleared everybody out. We went out to our bus. We hung out. We cooked whatever we cooked, and we ate and spent the night in the bus. Next morning, we got up and tried to figure out how we're going to get into the festival today. So all I remember is that a local motorcycle gang pulled up. And I mean, they weren't the Hells Angels or anything, but they had leathers on and they were a lot tougher than we were. And they went up to us, they said, take the damn bus and push it over there and drive it over there and leave it near the fence. So, all right, whatever you want. So we drove the bus right by the fence. And as we did it, all the guys, the bad gang and everybody else started jumping onto the bus and jumping over the fence. And they were using our bus as like steps to jump on to get over the fence. And after about 50 people did that, the security guards came out and told us to move the bus. And we were like, well, I don't know what to do. You know, they're here and you're here. And I don't know, you know, it doesn't say we can't park the bus here. And finally the guard said, how many are you? And I said, we were about 10 or 12, whatever it was. He goes, you move the bus now, I'll give you free passes for the rest of the festival. Done. Moved the bus, gave us passes, and then we got into the festival that day. I think we missed the first two acts. Again, it's pretty hazy, and it's we were in a psychedelic state, shall you say. So I'm not going to claim I remember seeing all these bands. But the second day did start off with the Jefferson Airplane. Grace Slick, Yorma, Jack Cassidy, the whole band. So Marty Balin. That was the beginning of the first day. Next band of the first day, Creedence Clearwater Revival. Them I remember seeing. And I remember when I saw them in Woodstock a couple of weeks later, they seemed sort of intimidated by the size of the crowd. They seemed more natural and more relaxed at the Atlantic City Pop Festival. Much smaller crowd, maybe 35, 40,000 people, not 500,000 people. But they put on a great show. After Creedence Clearwater, I don't have an album. There's a band called Lighthouse. Don't remember them. Next band, I wish I remember, but I have no recollection of this band at all. And it was Arthur Brown, The Crazy World of Arthur Brown. I assume he was there. I assume I saw it, but I have no recollection of seeing him. After Arthur Brown, this I distinctly remember because I was always a big blues fan. For some reason, they brought out the great B.B. King. And this in '69, so he was still fairly young. And he, again, tore the place up. Just fantastic. I got to see B.B. King. I remember running down near the front of the stage so I could get a better look at him. And spent the hour or so he was playing right down in front, checking him out. So that was pretty cool, seeing B.B. King. And right after B.B. King, they stayed with the blues. And the next band they brought up was Paul Butterfield Blues Band. So I stayed right down there in front and watched the band play. By '69, Mike Bloomfield had gone already. They brought Mark Knaflin in, who was playing organ and keyboards. I think Elvin Bishop had taken over lead guitar work by then, but still, fantastic band. So great to see them fairly early on. So '69, Paul Butterfield Blues Band. Then they sort of slowed things down a little bit and went a little more folky with the next act, which was fine with me and everybody else. I was so happy to see him, and that was Tim Buckley. This is his album, Greetings from LA, which is one of my favorites by him. There's Tim Buckley. But Tim Buckley did pretty much of a folk set and was fantastic. Folk jazz, he was doing more jazzy stuff by then, but really great. After he was finished, next band, what can I say? The Byrds. Fantastic. Just, again, I remember snippets, but I don't remember the band. I don't know if Graham Parsons was in it in '69. I don't know if Clarence White was there. I could look it up, I guess, but I haven't. But it was the Byrds, and they played. Next up was a band from South Africa. He had a big hit at the time with Grazing in the Grass, and it was Hugh Masekela. It was just great. Loved him and loved his album anyway. There's Hugh. This is a great album of his, I'm Not Afraid. Beautiful album. So Hugh Masekela from South Africa. And closing out the second day was a band I don't remember at all. I don't have a record for them. Band called American Dream. All right, so then now we're into Sunday. We left again Saturday night. We partied outside. There were a lot of people staying overnight there. I remember all sorts of things were consumed. It was great. Sunday morning, we got up. We had our free passes, and we got in. And the first thing on Sunday morning to kick things off was Janis Joplin and Big Brother and the Holy Company. And actually, it wasn't with the Big Brother and the Holy Company because Janis was there, and it was with her second band with Guy Flowers, who played saxophone. And it was a bigger horn-based band. It wasn't Big Brother, but it was Janis, and she was front and center, and she was freaking great. That I remember. After Janis came one of my favorite bands of the time, Canned Heat. Again, I don't think Al Wilson was there then. I think by then, what's his name? Can't think of his name right now, but there's another guy playing guitar at that point. But the the Bear was there, and the Sunflower and everybody else. Canned Heat. They were the next band up. After Canned Heat, now we're just getting started the second day. So the second day already, you've had Janis Joplin and Canned Heat, and then to blow everybody away, they brought out the Mothers of Invention, Frank Zappa. And unfortunately, I have no recollection of hearing them. I'm sure they were there. I'm sure they must have been. I don't know what I was doing, but I don't remember seeing Frank Zappa and the Mothers, which is a shame because I love Frank and company, but I just really have no recollection of seeing Frank. And unfortunately, the same thing with the next band. I must have been away doing something else. I don't know. But Sir Douglas Quintet, who I absolutely love, Doug Somm, they played. And again, no idea where I was. But I have no recollection of seeing them play, which is a shame because I would have liked to have been more aware of that. The next guy, then they had Three Dog Night. I don't have any of their albums. They were sort of big at the time. They did the Randy Newman song, Mama Told Me Not to Come, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? Next band, I remember distinctly because how could you forget? And it was Dr. John. He came out with the feathers and the cape and the whole New Orleans Mardi Gras look on them with the whole band parading. It was fantastic. By then it was starting to get dark and it was just amazing. That was one of the best performances there, was the great Dr. John. Now this thing is starting winding up. It's getting dark. It's Sunday afternoon, late Sunday afternoon, early Sunday evening. People have been there for 3 days. And then out comes a guy who I'd never heard of before. And he just took over the stage and people were like, it was Joe Cocker. We had no idea who he was. And he was just phenomenal. He did all the songs. He did A Little Help from My Friends and a lot of Feeling All Right. A lot of songs from this album, Just Like a Woman, Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood. It was just, we just never seen anybody move like that on stage, etc. And it was pretty fantastic. So I remember distinctly seeing Joe Cocker. After Joe, they brought out a guy who had a hit song at the time. Can't remember what the hit song was, but it was Buddy Miles. Changes, life's going through them changes. So they brought Buddy Miles out. And then the last performer to close the festival, they went with the iconic classic rocker, one of the visionaries and starters of rock and roll, and it was Little Richard. And Little Richard came out, and by then the crowd had dwindled down. We were still there, of course. The crowd had dwindled down, and I remember Little Richard getting into it and being Little Richard on stage. So, and that was the Atlantic City Pop Festival, which was about 2 weeks or so before Woodstock. And I was there with a bunch of my friends. After that, we drove the bus back to Ohio. Bus needed a ring job. All the things were falling apart. We got the bus fixed up enough to nurse it, and then we took it to Woodstock about 3 weeks later, and that's a whole other story. But that's the Atlantic City Pop Festival. Here's the screenshot of it. And that was August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, 1969. 53 years ago today. Good times. Good times. Hey, I appreciate you taking time out to watch my video. If you like what you saw, please give me a thumbs up and like and subscribe. I always look for new subscribers. I always have new things coming, and I'm sort of going to do videos on a more consistent basis from now on. Okay? Thanks for watching, and until next time, peace.